Hello everyone, I've got Weekly Mutation number 20 for you, and that is Growing Threat. Amon's forces have been altered by the Terrazine on Belshir in unexpected ways. Increased adrenaline triggers unpredictable transformations, and each death unleashes new hostile life forms. The most powerful of them have even developed organic nuclear capabilities. So this is on the Missed Opportunities co-op mission, and there are 3 mutations once again to go along with that. First one being Transmutation. Enemy units have a chance to transform into more powerful units whenever they deal damage. It's not whenever they get hit, whenever they deal damage. That I got a little confused on right away. Second mutation is Mutually Assured Destruction. Enemy hybrid units detonate a nuke upon death. By far the worst possible mutation. This in combination with Transmutation and this next mutation, this has to be the worst weekly mutation by far. But here, let's get to the next mutation. Then Alien Incubation. All enemy units spawn broodlings upon death. Now, we've experienced this mutation before. I know we've had this mutation. But in combination with the other two, it's a nightmare. That's all that needs to be said. It's terrifying. And I have played this mutation 15 or 16 times probably, and I lost every single time. It wasn't until I played with Quasar or The Overmind. He's got a YouTube channel, The Overmind. Go check it out, guys. But it wasn't until I played with The Overmind that I was actually able to beat this mutation. And I only played with him twice. First time we almost had it too. And then second time we just nailed it. So you just got to really find a good teammate that works well with you. That's the main thing. And not to mention, The Overmind is amazing. He has skills with Terran, especially with Swann and co-op missions. He really knows what he's doing. But we're going to hop straight over to my skills, mastery skills, how I have them allocated. So in the first power set, I've got Guardian Shell Life and Shield Restoration. That's at plus 26%. Power set 2, I've got Warp Charge Cooldown Reduction, which is at plus 50%. And Chrono Boost in Power Set 3, I've got Chrono Boost Efficiency, which is at plus 25%. And I think the most important out of all of these is probably that Chrono Boost Efficiency for the beginning of the game. That really helps you to get out more probes and, you know, fill up that supply line and then get probes on the gas, your simulators. So that really helps with your economy right at the beginning of the game. I think it's the most important. So, but yeah, once again, back to what I was saying about the Overmind. So what was really important, the combo that we're playing as is Artanis and Swann. And with Artanis, the Guardian Shell, that is so important when your units are about to die, then they're able to be saved. That's just the most important thing. And I know some people have played this mutation without using Artanis. Like, for example, I've heard about Zagara and Raynor combo, with Raynor using mines and Zagara just primarily using banelings. But I think that Artanis, if you do not have, you know, GM skills or Master League skills, as I don't, I am definitely not up there for skill level. I think Artanis is definitely a safe commander choice to choose to play with on this mutation and combo with pretty much whoever else, whatever other commander that you have. But I definitely think use Artanis. And then Swann, huge addition to Artanis, because Swann's just really good combo with any commander as well, because Swann's got those drones you drop down, you get the additional gas from each assimilator that you build, or each extractor or refinery, whatever it is that you have where you collect gas from for whatever race. And then not only that, Swann's got the laser drill, which constantly does damage to everything. And then not only that, you've got siege tanks, and siege tanks do a ton of splash damage, and their range, they just stay stationary back, and you can draw enemy units into their fire. But the main thing about the siege tanks that's really important is the fact that they can splash those broodlings that spawn after a unit dies. Now, what I've noticed about hybrid units and them dying is not just hybrid units, basic units, they spawn 2 broodlings upon death, and then the heavier the unit gets, it can spawn up to 7 units at a hybrid. So hybrids that I've noticed have spawned about 6 to 7 of those little broodlings. And each one of those broodlings, if they do damage, they can transform into units. So if you let it get out of hand, you could potentially have 7 more hybrids. And each of those hybrids is a walking nuke. So you got to be really careful about that. Okay, so back to what I'm doing right now. I am just really trying. I got all my probes out, and after I built 2 probes, I built a pylon. As soon as that pylon was constructed, or warped in, then I built a gateway, which transforms instantly into a warp gate. And then I got a forge right away, just in case I want to build some photon cannons and get upgrades. And I built a pylon right next to my expansion. And that's what I've done with my building so far. Now, this first wave, what the Overmind did, which was really helpful, is he built those flaming betties. He built about 2 or 3 of them right over by our first objective location, where these harvesting bots need to go. And it's really important to get those flaming betties up, because when you kill a unit, they spawn those broodlings, and those flaming betties do the splash damage that just destroy, absolutely melt away those broodlings in seconds, or milliseconds. It's really quick. And then also it helps if you happen to have Zerg as your opposing, as your enemy. If Zerg is your enemy, generally they come with Zerglings, and Zerglings really get evaporated by those Flaming Betties. So Flaming Betties are huge when you're playing this mutation with Swann. Just spread them all over the map, and that's what you're going to see the Overmind doing. And he does it so effectively. He's very, very good at doing it. But spam the Flaming Betties if you're playing as Swann, and then fill in turrets, missile turrets, to take out AA. I believe they're actually called Spinning Dizzies. So build a bunch of Spinning Dizzies, and then also build those Blaster Billies. But you don't need to build as many Blaster Billies, because the Blaster Billies only do single target damage, and you've got the Flaming Betties to do the splash damage to all these Zerglings and Broodlings that you're seeing on the screen right now. So that's the most important thing. But yeah, Spinning Dizzies, you gotta have those too. Just spread them out all around the map, and you gotta make those Spinning Dizzies to take out any type of air that spawns. Every now and then, it depends on what army you're facing and what type of army composition that is chosen for that mutation. But if you, even if you get lucky and have just mainly ground units, every now and then there is an air unit that's going to spawn in, and any broodling can turn into a air unit. So you also have to be careful of that. And there are flying hybrid units too. So if you do let it get out of hand, you will have a flying nuke. You have a walking nuke and a flying nuke. You got to be careful of both of those. Okay, and let's see. What I'm doing right now is I am trying to build up a bunch of Zealots and Dragoons, as just because I have Warp Gates up right now, and in the meantime I'm trying to build up my economy. These are just the cheapest units that I have access to right now, and I am going to continue using them throughout this mission. So I'm going to get this Singularity charge upgrade, and what that upgrade does is it increases the attack range of Dragoons by 2. So that's going to really help kill units before they get close to you to do damage if they're melee units, and I think that's really important to get. And then eventually, once I have enough minerals and gas, I'm going to get the Trillic Compression Mesh, and what that does, it increases the Dragoon's health by 40. So I think those 2 upgrades are the most important ones to get first for your Dragoons. And then you're also going to want to get the Zealot upgrades, which is Whirlwind and Charge. And Whirlwind allows that Zealot to spin in circles and just do area damage to any of those weak units. That's really helpful too, because that'll really kill those Broodlings fast and kill any of these Zerglings fast, and just simply does area damage. And then Charge allows those Zealots to intercept nearby enemies, and it also increases the movement speed of Zealots. So I definitely get all those upgrades from the Twilight Council, just because I'm going to be using, and I advise you guys to use Zealots and Dragoons throughout this map. Now, in a second here, I will get to what other units we're going to be using, but something important to do is save that, what is that ability called again? It is Shield Overcharge. Okay, so that ability I just used here, you want to make sure to save Shield Overcharge for when you most need it, because if you just use it in general, it's got a massive cooldown. It's 300 seconds. The cooldown for Shield Overcharge is 300 seconds. It costs you 50 energy, and it takes 300 seconds until you can actually use it again. So you got to be really careful when you're using it. I advise use it if you get caught off guard like I did about a minute ago, I wasn't watching my units, and I just started getting surrounded by Zerglings. So I had to instantly throw down that shield overcharge ability to save those guys. And then same goes for Solar Bombardment, which that drops a ton of, it drops 400 launches, 400 random strikes from space, and that's in a select area, but that also has a cooldown of 300 seconds. It doesn't cost any energy, but yeah, you got to be really careful. Use those abilities wisely when you do use them. That is, because they will save the mutation. They'll save victory for you if you use them at the right times. And it's okay to use them right in the beginning, because the beginning isn't as important. But once you get to about wave 4 or 5, you gotta use the Solar Bombardment and Shield Overcharge at the right times, because there will be waves of just hybrids that come every now and then, and if you don't have Shield Overcharge or Solar Bombardment to weaken those waves first, you're going to be in big trouble and lose your army, and then possibly lose the mutation. So you got to be really careful about that. Okay, so that's a lot of me talking, but talking about a whole lot of nothing. Okay, I guess it wasn't nothing, but what you really want to do is get a lot of these Dragoons out, these Zealots out, and then get that Robotics Bay built, which I just got, and it turns into a Warp Robotics Bay right away, and then start building Reavers. And as soon as you have your Robotics Bay built, Robotics Facility, I'm sorry. As soon as you have your Robotics Facility built, then you're going to want to build that Robotics Bay. And once the Robotics Bay is built, then there are 2 really important upgrades for the Dragoon that you're going to want to get. Okay, so the first one being Scarab Housing. And, okay, so these Reavers, they automatically regenerate these Scarabs over time. But if you get Scarab Housing from the Robotics Bay, that doubles the maximum number of Scarabs that the Reavers can hold. So while they're not doing anything, they can max out this doubled amount that they have of Scarabs, and then when you're actually fighting in battle, you won't have to worry about running out and waiting for these Scarabs to be recharged again into their maximum amount. It's kind of like carriers. Carriers, they have so many of those little flying spaceships, whatever they're called, receptors. I can't remember exactly what they're called, but there's only so many of those, and once they blow up, you have to regenerate those over time. But yeah, basically get Scarab Housing, because you're going to double the amount of Scarab you can do, and Scarabs do a ton of damage, so you're not going to want to run out in the middle of battle. And then also Solarite Payload, and that increases the splash damage radius of Scarabs by 25%. So that one's really important to get too, because if you do splash damage, that means that you can, well, actually, say this first. Scarabs already do splash damage, but if you increase the splash damage, you're just going to be able to kill those broodlings, which, as you can see, are constantly spawn all the time. You'll just be able to kill those that much faster. So you want as much splash damage as possible. So right now we've got Zealots and these Scarabs that are going to be doing splash damage for us, and that's really, really helpful. And then from the Overmind, we've got those Siege Tanks and Flaming Betties doing splash damage for us. So far that combo is pretty darn helpful. Another thing that's really helpful that the Overmind is doing, which Swann has, is SCVs. Every Terran player has SCVs, and what SCVs can do is they can repair mech units. Well, Protoss happens to have a whole lot of mech units, and that means that he is able to repair all of my units. And he's actually going to do that in a second here. But before we get to that, I dropped down Solar Bombardment on this wave specifically because I've played this mutation so many times, and I know after you beat the second wave, or just about beat the or let's see here, I think this is actually the third wave. Yeah, this is the third wave, my bad, everyone. Okay, so this is the third wave. Once you are just finally escorting those harvesting bots back on the third wave, there's going to be a big wave of hybrids. So keep that in mind. There's a big wave of hybrids. So what you're going to want to do is make sure that you have Solar Bombardment and your Shield Overcharge prepared for that wave. That way, as soon as that wave pops up on your screen, drop the Solar Bombardment and then have some Zealots ready. Throw those Zealots at those hybrids so they're distracted for a moment, and let the Solar Bombardment just wreck them. Just do so much damage to them. 15 hits per strike. Let all of those strikes drop upon them. And then as soon as they start getting close to your units, drop shield overcharge. So if those hybrids are too close to you and they start to blow up those the nuke explosions upon your units, then you'll be able to have an initial protection against the shield explosion. And then if another one blows up right away, then you've got that guardian shell, which will also protect them from dying. So both really important things to do. Drop the solar bombardment and shield overcharge on that hybrid wave that comes right after the third wave, or right towards the end of the third wave. And then as soon as you finish that third wave, you want to start clearing out all of these areas where the harvesting bots are going to start going, because there's a lot of nasty units in here. I think this is the only hybrid, the one that I just killed right here, but you want to make sure to start clearing that out. But yeah, there's Ultralisk. If you're playing against Zerg, that is, there's going to be Ultralisk here. You've got Broodlords and Archons, which is kind of random. I think that must have changed from a previous unit. But anyways, yeah, and then there's a bunch of hybrids that are going to be down here. Maybe 1 or 2 hybrids just already sitting there, not actually transformed from anything. And some of these units are so, they have so much health that they are going to end up getting a couple hits in, and you might run into, you know, a couple extra hybrids, which I did. I destroyed the first hybrid, then another one spawned, and then another one spawned from that Broodlord, I believe. I believe that transferred from Broodlord. Yeah. So you got to be really careful about that. And just clearing out these areas where these harvesting bots are going to go early will really help you. Just in case you lose your units, you can rebuild them right away before the harvesting bots get there. Because you can only lose 2 harvesting bots, and that's it. And if the later you lose a harvesting bot, the better. If you don't lose any harvesting bots at all, that's perfect. I mean, the less harvesting bots you lose, the better. But yeah, like I said, only lose 2, so you don't want to lose any for as long as you can. If anything, you want to make sure that the harvesting bot that you lose is on the very last wave, because I mean, the further you go in this mission, the harder it gets. I mean, for us, it got a little bit easier towards the very last wave just because our armies were so big, but the waves just keep getting bigger and bigger, and they come from all over the place. Like, we're on wave 4 right now, and we've got waves coming in from the top left, the top right, and the bottom. And I think even the very top had a wave come in from there too. So yeah, you just gotta be really careful. And once again, here comes another wave. And it's right next to one of our harvesting bots. I don't think I even noticed this right now. So this could have been really bad. But my units were kind of in the right spot. And I've got shield overcharge and solar bombardment prepared already. So I'm going to drop down shield overcharge. I'm not sure if that actually does protect your harvesting bots. I don't think it does. I think it only protects your units and allied units. But we're going to drop that down just so we can protect as much as we can around this harvesting bot and make sure those units die. And then all of our units, my units and the Overmind units, were out of place for that top wave. The Overmind did happen to have his blaster, or Flaming Betties, and spinning dizzies in place, so the units got distracted, but I threw down solar bombardment right away because I wanted to make sure that that top wave didn't get out of control too. So make sure to just eliminate it right from the get-go. And then at this point, we're sitting pretty darn good. We've got the Overmind is completely loaded with almost all siege tanks, and he's got, well, actually I would say it looks like he's got about 3/4 siege tanks and then about 1/4 Goliaths. Those Goliaths can shoot ground and air units at the same time if you get that upgrade. So those, yeah, as you can see, shoot ground and air units, and they can do it at the same time if you get that upgrade. So those units are definitely very good to incorporate into your army when playing as Swann. And then what I've done is I've loaded up with a lot of Zealots, and then I've got, let's see, I've got about, I'd say about 1/4 of my army is Dragoons, about half is Reaver, and then about 1/4 is Zealots. And that is pretty much 200 supply right there. And I've got 2 observers just to detect any burrowed or cloaked units. And then that's 200 supply cap right now. And I already told you guys about all the upgrades that I got. One thing I didn't mention is, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but I did have only 1 forge for this whole mutation. And from that forge, first, I got ground weapons leveled 1 through 3. I got all 3 upgrades right in a row for that. And then I got shields level 1 through 3. And then after shields, I started getting armor upgrades. As you can see, I just started getting level 2 armor from the forge. And I just did it one at a time because I didn't want to spend any extra resources on upgrades more than I had to all at once. I wanted to make sure I could rebuild as quick as possible because the problem I was having with this mutation is every single time I would start building up a sizable army, one of those nukes would go off and kill my army, and I wouldn't have enough resources left over to replace it. So I didn't even waste, not waste, but I didn't use those extra resources on upgrades. I decided to use it on just rebuilding instead. And, you know, there's other ways to do this, and you can definitely build 3 forges and get all 3 upgrades at the same time if you want. I mean, that's fair too. And don't forget to use your chrono boost. If you're done making probes from your nexuses, start using your chrono boost on whatever structure you're using to create or generate those upgrades, research those upgrades. And then once you have all of your upgrades that you want, I mean, feel free to throw down a chrono boost on your robotics facility or your warp gates. That way you can get those available warp-ins for units faster. And then all that we're doing right now is the Overmind. He's got defenses all over the place, but he's got a bunch of siege tanks placed right next to one of the harvesting bots, and then he's got a full force of siege tanks and Goliaths moving around on the bottom. And then what I have is I just have my whole entire army sitting at the very top here. And because you are going to get units from, you're going to get a wave, about 3 waves from the bottom and 1 wave from the top here. But I could have moved some of my units away from the top here, but I just want to be absolutely sure that a full wave of units wasn't going to sneak in and grab our bots at the very end here, because we've already lost 1 bot. We cannot afford to lose anything right now, so we're being really careful. And I got a little scared right here because this wave snuck in right past my units, so I threw down shield overcharge right away. I don't think I had to because the Overmind happened to have spinning dizzies in place for this really strong air army, and he had a bunch of siege tanks to take out any broodlings that spawned. But if you feel a little frightened and you're on the last wave like this, just throw it down. And then right here, this is the pretty much last wave that's going to really sneak up on you if you're feeling pretty secure. Don't use solar bombardment, but if you're not, our units were a little bit out of place, so that's when I threw solar bombardment down. Now there are going to be about 2 more waves that's going to come at us, but these our armies are going to be in place for, and we're going to be able to just straight on face them. So, and we're feeling pretty comfortable about the position of where these harvesting bots are compared to where our units are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw my Protoss units on the top wave, and I'm going to let the Overmind start taking out the bottom wave. Now, this top wave got evaporated pretty quickly here, but this bottom wave is going to get a little bit out of hand. We do have 1 harvesting bot that's a little close, and there's a Loki that spawned, and there's about 5 hybrids that are on the field right now. So this is where it got a little bit scary, but what I'm going to do is I threw down my ability Project Power Field, or Project Power Field. I threw that down, and now I'm just going to warp in a bunch of units just to distract these units, pull them back away from where the harvesting bots are going. And we were able to clear out this whole wave really easily, but yeah, it looked a little bit scary for a second there because there was about 5 or 6 of those hybrids, which were all 5 or 6 nukes coming straight at us. So we were able to do it, and what it really came down to, which was super helpful, was the Overmind spreading those turrets all over the map. And in the beginning waves, he salvaged the ones that were kind of out of place and then rebuilt them other places. But yeah, one of the biggest most helpful things that we did was, what the Overmind did was placing those turrets all over the place, so we had static defense in place for any waves that came out of nowhere. And then he started placing siege tanks, static defense siege tanks around the map to help empower those defenses that were already there. And with that combo, Artanis with the Guardian Shell and then the Overmind with the static defenses, we were able to actually beat this mutation. Wow, it was so darn difficult. So I hope this walkthrough was helpful for you guys. I want to know other strategies how to beat this mutation. As always, post in the comments if you have something different from what we did. I know that I played with Crystal Daz, and Crystal Daz was able to beat this. He has a YouTube channel, Crystal Daz. So what he did was he played with Alaric and Artanis. And those two combos, basically Alaric would handle all of the micro and all of the damage in the first, 10 minutes of StarCraft time of the game. And Artanis would literally just build up their economy and then build a bunch of Tempests after 3/3 upgrades for air units is completed. And then you would move out with a huge army of Tempests, and then whatever Alaric, sorry, I'm saying Alaric, that's incorrect. Whatever Alaric had, Alaric would have those Ascendants and Supplicants, mass a bunch of those, and move out with those Orb abilities for the Ascendants, and then move out with the Tempest for Artanis. But in our case, what we did was mass a bunch of Reavers, Zealots, and Dragoons, and then Swann massed a bunch of Siege Tanks, Goliaths, and then a bunch of turrets, and threw in some SCVs for repairs. So that worked out really well for us, and I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Once again, post in the comments if you found any other strategies. I would like to hear about them. So thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.